What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. If you're a running fan, jumping fan, throwing fan, all around athletics fans, you have found the right place. Today is Monday, July 17th of 2023. I'm Alex Cuesta. Partner in crime over there is Dave Hyatt. What's going on, Hyatt?
This anticipation for this world champs is killing me because we have
It's awesome.
so many things now. Like we got Shikari winning the 100. We got Ingebrigtsen running 3:27.1. It's going to be amazing. You just hope that it all comes together in Budapest and that everyone's there ready to go at the same time.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of fast times in a lot of races outside of the men's 100, which is the most wide open I've ever seen in like a long time right now. So, I mean, if Marcel Jacobs can get into form in that time, he's in the mix.
I think he's done.
Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, we will see. Maybe we'll maybe we'll bring some guests on and we could talk Worlds. We'll preview Worlds one day in an episode. I think we should do that. What is Worlds? They're in a month about now? It's about
about 4 weeks.
About 4 weeks. All right. So let's get into this show here, though. If you like what you've been hearing so far, if you're a fan of the episode, please like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. And the most important way to do this, if you are a runner and you are a coach or you are somebody like that, spread this word of mouth. Tell everybody that there's this running show that you listen to. I want to give a shout out to one of the young ladies who has been awesome on Instagram, Morgan. You will hear her coming on the show at some point, but she has become somebody that constantly go on her Instagram. It's Balanced by Morgan, and go check her out. She runs. She's inspirational. There's a lot of that cool stuff on Instagram, but she has been awesome to us, giving us shout outs all the time. So I wanted to return that to her. And if you want to find us on the socials, go search at Talking in Ovals. You'll see the logo of the track and everything. It'll be there. So last week's show, we had a really cool show. Lots of fun. Vicky Huber-Radowski came on, 2-time Olympian, 8-time NCAA champion over at Villanova, and a 1-time USA champion. Just had such an incredible story about her running career, which we've gotten from so many individuals and just the way they've done it. And Dave, just like all of them, I enjoyed last week's show thoroughly.
It was great. I mean, hearing from a absolute legend, a pioneer in female running, it's great. And I hope that a lot of young high school runners go and listen to that episode and Julie Cully and Sarah Slatter, because they have such amazing stories. And I feel like there are times when sometimes the females get forgotten at times, but I mean, these are absolute amazing women who have trailblazed so many things for the generation that is coming up now.
And certainly, if you're a female runner, go pick up Sarah Slattery and Molly Huddle's book, How She Did It, and giving them a little shout out because we love Sarah over here. But we have no PRs, PBs this week. It's been a lull for, the levels of people that we have been going around. But as cross country gets nearer, we'll be getting those high school PRs and PBs and things coming in. So we're excited for that. But this week, we have another fantastic guest, a person who is a jack of all trades, does a whole bunch of things, but more importantly to us, he's a high school coach, and he is Brian Prendergast. He's the Manasquan High School head coach for cross country track and field. He is the co-creator of JSF Runners and the co-host, a fellow podcast host of the Two Fit Crazies and a Microphone podcast. What's going on, Brian?
Not too much, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're pumped. We're always love having anyone that's on that enjoys running. And we have found that picking the brains of high school coaches is lots of fun. Early on in this thing, we had a bunch of high school coaches on. You missed out by a few months at the high school coaches roundtable, which was lots of fun. We might
listen to it. I had to catch up with some of those guys.
Yeah, we might bring that back at some point, but I want to jump in right away. We're going to do our first segment that we do every single week with our guests. When did you get the spark of, being a runner, doing basically running for the rest of your life, getting to that point where it went from not being a chore to being something you think you could do all the time?
My history with running is probably unique as far as the airwaves and where I am with coaching and even still as a master's runner. But I started young. I started very young. I started in Junior Olympics. I mean, I was running cross country with the Catholic School League at Ocean County Park. I grew up, born and raised in Manasquan, where I coach now. And I went to St. Denis, which is no longer. The diocese did away with that one. And my parents were the coaches of the cross country team. My brother was 3 years older than me, and he was really good. So I kind of got into a junior boys cross country. I picked up my first Shore AC shirt off of the wall of Tim McClune's running store in 1984. I was like 9. Nice. We were running like Shore AC stuff way back then. And then and in it around the sport like a lot. Like I said, my brother was 3 years older than me. He ended up running for CBA for a couple years. So he was pretty good. He would win like those Ocean County Park meets, this Catholic School League, and there was no doubt where he was going. He was going directly to the academy to go run over there. And I was probably destined for that as well. Long story short, we had my part of the reason why I ran and why we were introduced to running is because my father was doing it as kind of a way to get back in better health. He had a heart condition. So his walking kind of started got into some run walking and things like that. But really he wanted us to be around it. He liked the sport. He would take us to the track meets at Brendan Byrne Arena and Milrose Games. And, I was in MSG. I was actually at Brendan Byrne Arena when Eamon Coughlin ran the 3:49 indoors, and I was like 7, awesome. So like it goes way, way back.
So we can have youth that like this sport. I've been convinced that youth don't like running. Apparently, if you ask NBC and the powers that be to market this.
I think live, it's fantastic. I think the coverage that they have for the, and look, I was going to wait for that segment because I got ideas, boys. I got ideas.
We'll get to that at the end. We will certainly get to that at the end. I was just kind of being annoying about it.
Yeah, no. It's good. Yeah, but I know how the show operates.
Yes.
I know how the show operates. I'm a fan. So I mean, long story short, my father passed away. My father passed away when I was 12 years old. And like I kind of like lost my ride, I guess, he's my ride. He was the one who kind of coordinated all these things. So, I ended up, ran all the way up through then, and I was still doing Junior Olympics and stuff. My mom was running marathons like in the 80s. She ran New York. She was a Boston Marathon qualifier that I finally asked her why she never ran Boston because she qualified and she never ran it. And she said, I didn't want to train in the winter. And I was like, fair enough.
I like that. That's a great mentality.
I mean,
honesty.
The real story was that she had a handful of kids and she was a single mom and, newly single, widowed mom at the age of 40, which was crazy. Yeah. And look, mama tried, but, the reality was I was playing a bunch of sports. I was playing basketball, I was playing soccer, I was playing lacrosse, I was playing everything. And my brother ended up leaving CBA. He was very good. He was the varsity letter winner on the 87 team, which is considered one of their very, very best. It was John Coyle, and Matt Mitchell, and all those dudes. My brother,
Coyle, Mitchell, those guys are great.
Yeah, I mean the back door with that is like the sophomores would run the dual meets, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like
John Coyle was my 6th grade English teacher in Manchester.
Different Coyle.
Was that a different Coyle? I know There was a Coyle that ran at CBA though. He also ran there.
I believe it
could have been. John Coyle was like the legendary. He was like the best until some of these other guys that came around more recently.
Okay.
Chris Bennett's brother was on that team, Rob, and all those dudes. So again, I'm running and I'm doing some things, and but again, I lost my ride, so I kind of just drifted into some other sports, and even by the time I got to high school, I went right to Manasquan. I didn't go to CBA like I was probably destined to. And by the time I actually got there, my brother had transferred. He was at Manasquan. Kind of retired from the sport at age 16. It was weird. It was tumultuous just because our family life was crazy, and it was just kind of the way things worked out for me at the time. And I remember the cross country coach calling my house at Manasquan and being like, all right, practice starts freshman year, practice starts here. And I was like, dude, I'm going to play soccer. I'm sorry. And I never ran a step for him. I went, I was like the kid who was like, and look, some of it was because the program just wasn't really anything. We really didn't have much anything going on. And I would play soccer. I played lacrosse, and then I'd run road races in the summer. It was weird. like I wasn't involved with running pretty much at all. I was still in it. I was still around it. I still, Olympics came around. I mean, I remember like the 84 Olympics better than I remember like, whatever the most recent one was, because it was, it was just everything. I mean, it was just like, it was Carl Lewis, and it was, and it was Joe Benoit, and like,
LA too, thing.
Yeah, I was just out there last week, and I took pictures in front of the Coliseum. It was pretty fucking neat.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. They're getting geared up because they're going to have another one pretty soon, a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, again, so I was always in and around it. I used running as fitness. I played a bunch of sports. I went to school out west, and I was, always climbing mountains and very active, and stayed in shape, and everything was pretty good. And, and I was always a fan. I was always like, I never got away from it. I'm a big sports guy. So like basketball, like, college hoops and college football, and you name it. I mean, I'm in, and so it was always just like, yeah. It was always just like another thing for me to kind of root for, and I knew who all these people were, and I was still going to the Milrose games. Like, I saw Robbie Andrews win the mile in the high school mile then, and I'd become friends with the families, which is pretty cool. I was just I would bring kids. I had a friend of the family who was a sprinter at Ocean Township High School. And like, I was like, you got to go check out the Milrose games. So I bring them, and I was like kind of just in and out of running at the time, just kind of using it for fitness and things like that. And then, and I'm a recovering mortgage banker, right? So I was in mortgage banking, and I was kind of just like playing the playbook of like, you go through school, you do all these things, and then you just kind of get your career, and then you just kind of live vicariously through your kid's sports career. And like, that's kind of the way it was. I was putting on weight, and I was just like kind of unhappy. So I started to get in shape again, and here comes running. Here comes running. It's always there for me. It never not there for me. And I started picking it up more seriously then. And I was, just about to be, I was in my 30s, early 30s, 31 or so. And I still had it. I still had it from back in the day. I still remember what it was like. I remembered how to hurt during a workout, and like, and kind of get into, feel the blood in your mouth, taste the blood in your mouth a little bit sometimes. And
oh yeah,
I mean, I've known what a fartlek was since I was 7. So it was like, I just kind of took back to it. And, with that, I had to go run a marathon, of course, and, and get into some of that stuff. And it's really just taken on a life of its own. Quit mortgage banking, got into health careers, health coaching, and personal training and fitness, and I've turned that into a business with that. And I was always I started coaching other people. I started coaching adults. Started coaching people who wanted to run half marathons, or even like run their first 5K. It was
So Brian, would you say that like your spark kind of went like it never truly burst, but it never faded? It was always just kind of there. Like you were always a runner, but never committed to it until now later in your life, where now you're a committed masters runner. Like, would you say it was something that like it always wanted to happen, but other circumstances just like didn't allow it to really truly, like, because all of our other guests could point to a moment where I won this meet and boom, I knew I wanted to do it. I did that. But right. You were kind of around it young, really liked it, saw your brother do it, and then you kind of didn't want to with all the things going on in your life. And now here you are coaching and being a masters runner. So would you say like your spark was just always kind of, it was there, just never fully realized until later, basically?
Yeah, it was like, it was like the girl that you met really early and ended up marrying her 30 years later. It was like one of those deals. Yeah, I mean, look, and a lot of it was circumstances. Like when my father passed away, it was like that was it. Like, how do I get to a meet? How do I get to a race? What do I? Track. He was the one that would take me to train, or whatever. Just go run on the boardwalk or whatever it was. And then, in school, and one of the reasons why I do coach where I do now, because I feel like I kind of owe it, is because like when I went to high school, there was not much of a program. It was just like, I was much happier playing soccer. My friends were playing soccer. We were just kind of doing it. And I never really thought anything. And honestly, I think that I'm almost in a way I am very grateful for the fact that it kind of worked out this way, because if I did it then, and I did it pretty heavily then, and I ran like kids run in high school, and then, maybe even lucky enough to go to college or whatever, I might not be doing it now. And I love doing. I mean, I ran 8 miles this morning, and then I feel
could be
good.
like Dave and I, and just being fat and retired from doing our collegiate stuff, and
constantly 18 years hard every day,
constantly being hurt and injured in college and stuff. And at this point, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm kind of satisfied.
Guys, I don't do lost causes here, man. Don't say that too loud.
No,
I'll come find you. We'll go for a run.
I'm not satisfied. I just got to get that.
You're more in proximity to Dave. You got to come up all the way up here to Poughkeepsie, New York.
I got to get that spark back.
Hey, yeah, you know what? Look, motion drives emotion, right? We use that in the fitness industry all the time, right? You got to get moving, and then you'll find that spark. That spark's not going to find you.
Absolutely.
You got to go find it. Yeah, for sure. So motion drives emotion.
So I want to jump into your coaching right now, because you took on something. You talked about how, Manasquan doesn't really didn't have a big, a big or a great program while you were there and all that type of stuff. And you're back, you're coaching at your alma mater, a school that you never ran a step for, an athlete, but didn't run a step for. And they're unique in a sense because they don't have a track.
Right.
And I'm used to that in collegiate because I went to Marist College. We don't have a track at Marist. So, we have a little bit, I feel like our circumstance is a little bit better because we're adults. Our coaches could tell us, hey, everyone get in your car. We're going to go to X track here. What is that like for you? Because obviously in XC, it's not too bad. You do sometimes in XC, you enjoy the track to get speed work if you have it. But for the most part, you're running, you're working on trails and hills and things like that. What is the challenge like when it comes to indoor and outdoor track? As an indoor, it might be cold, but if the snow's not on the ground, we're running on the track. But what is that like
every day?
Every day. Yes. Go shovel out lane 1 and 2. Freshman,
absolutely.
Go shovel out lane 1 and 2 right now. Get it ready by the time warm up. But
many tracks in my high school.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what is that like for you with Manasquan? Talk about your time coaching there. How long have you been coaching there right now? And what has it been like kind of dealing without having a track?
And how did all that come about? Because you're not a teacher per se.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
So how does one get involved in coaching high school track if they're not educated? Because
kind of went like
the format.
Yeah, it kind of went like this. So, like I said, I was coaching runners, I was coaching adults, I was coaching people through, in marathon, through marathons and 5Ks, and got some pretty good kids. So some post-collegiate kids that, I was able to help out and get cooking pretty good. And I was helping out some youth, some middle school kids that, honestly, once they got to high school, I cut them loose and said, listen, you have a coach now. It's not me. Whoever's coaching you, they're going to get a really good kid. And so I was kind of in and around town coaching, and just people knew, and I was running marathons and people knew that I was a runner, and things were kind of happening in that regard. In 2016, I think it was, again, I have a personal fitness background, and I was training some runners, strength training. I would bring them into the gym. I'd get some kids, that needed to just get a little stronger. I'd take some high school, freshman girl that couldn't stand on one foot without shaking like crazy, and just get them a little stronger and work on some things. And I heard one day from Damon Godfrey, who's was coaching Homedale High School at the time, and he's now coaching over at Monmouth University. And he said, listen, I've got this team. They're very good. And, I just feel like if we made strength a good part of their summer training leading up to cross country, it would be beneficial to them. We got a shot at this. I think we can be a really, really good team. And they were a fantastic team that I worked with all summer. When that happened, I kept the middle school kids that I was kind of coaching in running, but I said, you know what? I'm not working with anyone else in strength. This guy wants to take me on. He wants me to work with this team, and I'm just going to work with this team. I'm not going to work with anybody else. And I worked specifically with them. We met a couple weeks. I'd load up my truck and bring it up to Homedale Park. They would get done with practice. We were doing, some strength training stuff, kettlebells, mostly just standing on one foot and really just trying to get a little bit stronger in a running fashion, not, jacked or yoked or
Right.
diesel or anything like that. Just getting a little bit more solid.
And that's a huge
And,
difference. A distance runner certainly lifts weights and gets through strength training a lot different than your average football player or other sports.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's a unique sport. We're a single-legged sport, and we just kind of have to make sure that we're, got our hips in line and getting some core work in. I don't know. Our runners always call it core. We're going to do core today. It's core time, and I was like, it's everything, we got to get our feet and ankles and everything in order. And we got to pull things and, push things and do all sorts of stuff. So I worked like pretty much like I worked exclusively with them for that season. They ended up to finish third in the Meet of Champions cross country. They had a great group of girls. They were unbelievable. And I'm talking like Central Jersey, Group 2, and they were actually in the same division as Manasquan at the time. And I'm there, and I know the AD at Manasquan, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, you guys got a sleeping giant on your hands. I was like, Manasquan at the time, like, didn't even maybe had enough kids to score in the division meet.
Wow.
And Homedale's winning, the podium at Meet of Champions, and had a great team. And it was really, really fun to be a part of, right? I was kind of like off to the side a little bit. I wasn't on a coaching staff or anything like that. The parents would, pay, the kids would come to my gym. And, so that was really, really cool. I got to be a part of it. And I said, you know what? I've got to get into this high school stuff. I'm already coaching. I was pretty miserable in mortgage banking.
Brian, what is it that you found with the fitness training, especially with those tiny cross country girls? Why is it always the smallest ones that end up breaking the school record like a freshman year? Like, why it's always like the smallest cross country girls that can't balance on one leg that end up being incredibly fast? What is that with those tiny XC girls?
They just they probably have ginormous heart and lungs. Like that's really what it comes down to. The strength training isn't to make them a faster runner.
No.
It's maybe to let them run more, which makes them a better runner.
Yeah.
We just try and get them just to be a little bit more sound and resilient to taking on the workload. It's really not about getting faster or, maybe with the sprinters where they're doing some really dynamic stuff and like great plyometrics and all those things. Like certainly that happens, but with the high school runner and the little Bambies that I like to call them, where it looks like I asked them, for one of the first things I do is stand on one foot. And if they they're shaking and things, maybe we get, some posterior muscles and some glutes and hamstrings and stuff stronger, and that helps. Just stabilize the hips a little bit. But mostly it's like, make sure they're eating well. I do that a lot. It's a problem in our sport, especially with the high school female. So again, I got sidetracked there, but
that was my fault.
No, that's okay. So I wanted to be around it, and I always said there's two schools that I would want to coach at, and one is Manasquan, and the other one I won't even mention, but because I'm at Manasquan. But there was two local schools. I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and I never really could though because I was running my business, and then like things were I was working, and there's every once in a while Manasquan would get a good kid, and they kind of asked me to help and. What can we do with this kid? And, I'd help him out. Colin Flood is one of them. He was a 417 kid. He ran 918, I think, in the 32. And he's at Fordham now. He's a good kid. And he's a Manasquan boy. And, he's like, bro. And, we kind of get along pretty well. So it kind of helped the kids out, helped the program out, and just volunteering and just being around it, letting them know. And in the meantime, telling the AD, like, listen, man, you got it all wrong. You've got a sleeping giant here that can really do some things. It's just the same slice of demographic that what I was working with in Homedale, and so long story short, COVID hits. Right, a couple of years later, COVID hits. I am in corporate wellness and workplace wellness, and my business went freaking sideways. It was like, well, I had to reinvent a lot of things in order to do what I do. And I've moved everything online. And when I moved everything online, I didn't quite have to be there in person all the time. And, and then an opportunity came up. They said, do you want to be a volunteer assistant? Can you help us out with this? And it was, outdoor track last year. And I said, yeah, let's do it. I was a volunteer assistant. And we went in, and I kind of said I would change this, and I would kind of change this too, and I'll probably do this differently. And I went over to the kid who's one of my better kids now, and like I walked up to her on her second day of practice. I'm like, "You're the best one here. You need to take this seriously." And just kind of changed the mood and the energy of what was going on there. And we had a really good season, and I work with good coaches there too. My girls coach. So I'm right now I'm the boys head coach in cross and track and field, but I'm the distance guy. Right. And we have a great coach that I work with, Michaela Reed, who's the girls coach, and she's the girls head coach. We just divvy up everything. Now she's a multis competitor. She was at Bucknell first, and she's Manasquan school record in the hurdle. So she's a local girl too, and she's not a teacher either. So she's our school record holder in the high jump. She went to Bucknell and she was doing the multis there, and then she left and she finished up with Coach Joe at Monmouth. Nice. And I love Coach Joe. Yeah, I listened to that episode too.
Awesome.
So we're kind of there, and I'm like, listen, we just need to like focus on getting better and changing the mood and the attitude. And the next thing I know, they're like, "Do you want to stay around here and do this all the time? The cross country job is open. Do you want it?" And I said, I was in a position with work where I kind of, I have the time. I pretty much work until 2:30 every day, and then I go do track and field. And it works. It works pretty well. So, we start, getting these kids involved, starting to take them seriously. Nothing more important in Manasquan High School than being cool. And it's number one. And here I am trying to offer these boys short shorts and saying, "Here you go, let's go running." And it took some convincing, but we've got some horses now, and the kids are really into it. And broke a bunch of school records and stuff. So, yeah.
So what was that like, having to come in as somebody who is semi-known but not fully known to the guys, and try to build that culture? Because obviously there was a culture of, we're on the team, some of us are good, some, a lot of us aren't, but the good ones are cool and we'll do that, and the rest of us will just be on the track and cross country team. What was it like to come in and kind of build that culture of no, you're on this team, you're serious, whoever's on this team, we have goals, we have things we want to achieve, you seem like the type of person, especially with your training and stuff like that, and the fitness, there's got to be a goal here. You can't just come and do what the joke always says, run for fun, right? Right. If you're on a team, you got to have a goal, whether it's if you're the fifth man on the XC team and you're trying to break 18, let's get there, those types of things. So what was that like, trying to get kids to, on the men's and women's side, to buy in to a new culture that, you were probably trying to bring in there?
A lot of it was just attitude and energy. We made a really big deal about the school records at first. And what we did is we made them compete against each other. One of the first things I did when I was brought on, I said, "How many football players do we have? What's the deal with that?" And I know that I can get those knuckleheads to compete against each other. So, we did. So it was like, all right, let's get loose, make sure we're not getting injured, early on. But once we kind of got them up to speed, it was like, all right, let's see who can run hundreds the fastest. Let's see who can do this. You want to be good. And okay, so then it's like, all right, well, you just did this. All right, you just ran 12 seconds or whatever. And now, okay, so if you wanted to compete, this is what kind of kids in the short conference are running. If you get to 11.5, you start to be in the mix. We go under 11, we're talking, school records, and you can, be a finalist and, maybe go to section, groups and things like that. So we kind of just looked at it, numbers wise. Distance was harder, obviously, with no track. I didn't answer that question yet. But
we'll get into that. You have to tiptoe with being the current coach. I don't want you to piss off your AD or anything.
I already did that. The AD is a great guy. I went to elementary school. The Manasquan's like that. You kind of leave. Right. It's a lot like Manchester, I think. Or even Tom's River. The guy he was he was the center. I was the point guard on the elementary school basketball team, and now he's the AD. So the distance kids was a little different, and they took some time to get into it, but and really that first year in track, I had a bunch of freshmen, I had a bunch of kids maybe who weren't that into it, but they kind of get tired of sucking after a while, or not sucking, but they get tired of not winning. They get tired of saying, okay, what do I got to do to move myself up in this? And that's the game, right? What do I got to do to improve? What can I do to small things? And I saw a lot of that. And, here it is. This is what we have to do. This is what maybe you're hitting your intervals at in practice, or, this is what a tempo feels like. And I run with them sometimes. So it's like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get old man abuse here from me, which is cool. It's always fun. And, just kind of move them along. Like I said, the school records, we did make a big deal about. If we had anything, and there was some low-hanging fruit that I knew we were going to get like right away, especially when it got to indoor this year. So now I'm like, after cross country, we're in the indoor track this year. We like combined, we broke 15 school records this winter.
Nice.
Like
That's
we just
awesome.
Fucking got after it.
That's
and like,
awesome.
Yeah, it was wild. And again, there was like some low hanging fruit that we knew we'd get pretty easily. We open up with that Merle Invitational, which is awesome because there's a 300, a 600, and a 1,000.
There you go. And those are the cheapies you just grab there. But they're still good times. It's still a record. So
those events plus like those events have been around for a long time. They were there when I ran in high school, and
right.
Obviously, we were running on tracks that weren't as fast as now, but it's cool that is one great thing about indoor track is that there are meets that have different
certainly
lengths of events. So
and I love it because we opened up with it. It was like, boom, see what we can do here. I was kind of like, look, guys, we just got this. So then it became like change the board, hashtag change. There's a big board in the gym with the school records on it.
Yeah.
So we're like,
That's great.
We just said we're changing the whole. God, I told the AD, my friend, I said, leave the ladder out. We're changing the whole thing. Like, let's go.
Fantastic.
And the kids were all into it. The kids were into it, and I had a couple girls get after it. We broke the DMR record. I got a really good girl in 800 and 1600. That's running pretty fast. I got a good 400 girl. So it happened pretty quickly, and we were able to kind of turn it around. And that now they're all into it. The other thing is numbers. I had to go recruit. I had to go get kids. Like the first year, last year in outdoor in 2022, there was like, man, we had like 65 kids combined, like boys and girls. So it wasn't a lot. So this year we started off with like 95, right? And it was like,
for Group 2 school, that's a solid turnout.
It was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, we're getting there, and I think we ended up with like 80 something because kids will drop off and some starts getting warm, they start going surfing in Manasquan, and then that's that.
Go run on the beach and then come back to us, please.
Yeah, well, you know what? I get a lot of that, man. I got like 3 kids on the cross country team that are lifeguards right now, which is great. Which is great. It's like I'm not too worried about them getting their miles.
At least working out.
How much? Go ahead, Dave.
So, you mentioned you and the other coach, you don't teach there. So, do you rely a lot on your culture and the other athletes on your team who have had success to help in that process of getting kids out for the team? Since, you don't have that, I'm going to go see coach during period 2 or during period 3. Like, do you rely a lot on that culture and everything that you've built to get those new kids out, more like word of mouth?
Yeah, so we have to, and the kids are great with it. We had our seniors this year, a couple of football players were like, recruiting and going to get other kids, and we called it football practice. I said, guys, I told the football coach who I've known forever. I said, I got football practice every day after school in the winter and the spring. We can do that. So they did a good job of the kids too, just going out and getting their friends and getting a javelin thrower or, anything like that. The other thing is assistant coaches. We went and hired our throws coach is a female who is our school record holder from way back. Megan Kavanaugh is awesome. She went through at Mount St. Mary's, which is unique to have a female throws coach, but she is freaking awesome. And her daughter's in the school and her daughter throws for us, and she really knows her stuff, and that was awesome. And then the other thing is that Michaela Reed, who I mentioned before, is her father's the vice principal of the school. So he's kind of our school connection, and I was usually in there hanging out in the school anyway. So talking to guidance counselors and stuff. I really made sure that I tried to just be in there and making sure the kids are doing the right thing and everything with that. But so we brought him on staff too. We brought Rich Reed on staff, and he's amazing. He's primarily a football coach. He's one of the best football minds around. He's like one of those Manasquan high school football guys. And
Manasquan high school football.
Yeah, so. Yeah. He coached assistant under Vic Caboo, who's the legendary coach here in town. And so we brought him on, and he was Michaela's coach when he coached track and field back when he was teaching. So now he's the vice principal. We kind of bring him in, and he can coach anything. He's fantastic. He's just a great coach. Doesn't matter. He can coach checkers. He'd be great. So he was kind of our connection with the school, which was good.
I also think it's great that you mentioned the interaction and the positive relationship with other coaches, especially football for track and field. Because I've seen some schools where the coaches in the football, they're like, I don't want my guys going out for track. Like, they're going to train with me. But from what I've learned, and I could be wrong, most great football coaches will want their kids to be out for track, because in track you get faster, you get stronger. Like you do everything to get better for the sport of football. So it's always nice when you can get those kids out, because that's a lot of times your sprinters, your jumpers, your throwers, your hurdlers. Like those guys, a lot of them come from that football program. So it's always good if you can get those kids out, and if you can have some sort of positive relationship with the coach, or at least an understanding with the coach. Hey, we're going to make your kids better, because that's they don't really care about track and sense, although some of them do coach track, but they just want to know that their kids are working out, getting faster, getting stronger. So that can definitely be a very positive correlation if you can make it, especially smaller school district.
And I always found the best way to convince the coaches and the athletes is, you're going to get your footwork better, and I will put you in the weight room 4 days a week. Okay? Go lift and then work technique. If you're, a lineman, do shot and disc. We will get you a spin. Your footwork will be fantastic. And, some of the skill players, let's just put you in jumps first, and then we'll ease you into that 60 and that 100, and that you kind of weasel them in. But as I feel like if you dangle the weight room in front of football players, they're kind of like, I was going to be there anyway, so yeah, maybe I'll go and I'll learn how to jump and do shot and disc. Or where's your backup quarterback? Yeah, javelin, let's show them that tech. Like that kind of all works out. Is that what you find? Like, obviously you have a good relationship, but is that kind of a way that you like approach it too? Like, get in the weight room, guys, and then come learn some technique as well.
You said a good relationship. It's an all right relationship. I try.
A working relationship.
I'm like, here's what I have to offer, right? And honestly, one of the things that was almost helpful to us is that a couple of the kids were getting recruited, and they were getting recruited to play football. And they were like, well, what do you do in the spring? And they were like, well, we're in the weight room. And he's like, why don't you run track? Right? You're a running back. You're a wide receiver.
College coaches,
why don't you run track? Yeah, no, the college recruiters were the ones. And I actually got kids back this year for their senior year after they were done and already signed and things like that, because that college coach was like, you are running track this year. And they were like, weight room, we all do weight room. Like, you better be doing weight room. Like that's a given. Like, we're all doing that. And which is the same thing that I've kind of been saying all along. And especially the way they play football now, it's all fast. It's all on turf. It's all speed. It's all like, it's crazy. And they were going, these kids were going to the meets now. So maybe like they get a kid out. So we had one of our really good recruiters on the team was a kid named Cale Driscoll, who's a senior. He just graduated. He's probably going to do multis. He's going to University of South Carolina on,
nice.
But he's going just for great, school. He's got family down there. He's talking to the coaches. He's going to try and walk on. He's a kid who's just I called him my Swiss Army knife, because he can do anything. He was like, he comes out in high jumps, first high jump ever. He was like 6 foot. And then, eventually goes 6'2", he's 6'3", and he long jumps 20 feet. And, he's hurdling and everything's cool. So it's kind of like, wow, Cale's doing pretty well over here. He actually won sectionals this year in the high jump and the long jump, so he's a really, really just fantastic athlete. He was pretty good at football too, but not as good as he was at track. That's what I like to say. We had another kid, same thing, hurdler. He's a football player, but he's going to DeLille Saluki. He's going to go to Wagner. He just, he's got a deal to go run collegiately at Wagner, Division I.
Awesome.
And, it's from stuff that he did on the track. He could probably hit the weight room a little bit more, but we love that kid. So, it doesn't matter too much because he got pretty fast. He was a 400 hurdler and 110 hurdler. So,
and as more kids see that their teammates are getting offers to colleges, that'll only help increase the interest, and that'll help build the character and the whole team chemistry. So like those are wonderful things, especially at a smaller school that maybe doesn't have the history that some of its similar sized schools have, especially in its area or throughout the actual state. It's great because then kids are like, I can go to college running track. Wait, I might have a better chance going to college running track than I do playing football. Why do I not do anything wintertime, springtime?
I mean, and it's completely objective too, right? We could send them the run crew and to be like, listen, if you run this, these are the schools that would probably be interested in you.
Yep.
Right. And with football, it's not that way. I mean, football, they look at these kids and they're like, all right, good. You got the size, you got this, but you're a Group 2 school. Who cares? You didn't even really play anybody. Who are you playing against? And, you're racking up big numbers and things like that. And it's just hard. It's, they're victims of circumstances as far as that goes, because a lot of them are very good.
Yeah. I mean, track, it's based on time. How fast you
Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're Group 1, Group 4 or whatever, and especially when they can work their way through some things.
So, Coach, we've been dancing around it. What are the trials and tribulations of not having a track? Especially, you talk about a lot of the sprinters, the hurdlers, and things like that.
Yeah.
How do you execute training on a day-to-day basis without a track? What is that challenge?
It's a pain in the ass. Take your. I'm a distance coach, right? So just take your book of workouts and how do you get around it? And I'll explain. So we have what we call it the jack. It's a half a track. So the situation that we have, Manasquan is a very small property for the school. There's not a lot of land. It's not like we got backed up the woods or anything like that. So the football field and the baseball field actually overlap. So the outfield of the baseball field covers part of the football field. So if we did have a track that went all the way around, it would cut right through around the football field. It would cut right through the outfield of the baseball. So what they did was we used to have a cinder track that did cut through the outfield of the baseball field. But they did away with the cinder track that went all the way around. And like when I was there was a cinder track. And now we have a J. It's a J track. It's a half a track. It's a candy cane. So I have a straightaway for the sprinters. And then I have a straightaway and a turn. In all, it's 250 meters. If I stretch out like this macadam walkway that leads into it, I can make it 300 meters. I hate having them run that because it's just uneven and there's maybe some potholes and things like that. So the problem is it doesn't go all the way around, right? As you know from indoor, we can do a lot with a 200 track if it goes all the way around, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's really the biggest issue with it. So let's take out any time trials. Let's take out really pacing work, like things that we use, like a 400-meter track for, or even a 200-meter track. It's impossible for relay handoffs. I mean, that's one thing.
I was going to ask, like, is it at least marked with like hurdle marks and
but it's
exchange zones and all that?
It is, but in true Manasquan fashion, they're all off. It doesn't really work the way that it should. So we actually go and tape it. We make tape. We tape the exchange zones to make it work.
So you have no home meets.
No. There's no home meets. There's really and really what we have is 85 kids on a track in practice, and that's 250 meters. So like we go out in lanes 1 and 2, and you come back in 3 and 4. So like if we're like we kind of have to figure that out. Once the hurdles go on the track, forget it. Like we kind of have to break out, really manage the time and make sure that once the hurdles go on the track, we can do that. But I mean, for distance stuff, I send them out. Right. And not only do we not have a track, but we don't really have like dirt roads or anything like good to run on. I mean, I have to send them out in the streets. There's a bike path that's near us that goes all the way out to like the Lair State Park, which is pretty good. But it's pavement. It's it's blacktop all the way
It
through.
hurts.
It's not.
IT bands get real sore real quick if you're not used to that.
Now, are there any local schools that will let you go there? Say you're working on a 4x1 and you need to work on the handles. Like, do you have a positive relationship with any other coaches or schools that would say, all right, like, come here? Can't bring all 85 kids over.
Yes,
but like you could bring a few kids where you can work on things.
So we do, and that's Point Pleasant Beach has a track that we use. We have to wait. The deal that we have with them is we have to wait till their practice is over.
Makes sense.
Which is fine. We respect that. Now,
a little tough on high school kids to be asked to wait that long. They have homework, they have things. So I can imagine it does become a little difficult at the high school level.
And we got kids like, let's say for that live in Belmar, which is about 15, 20 miles away, and they're not starting practice till 4. They get out of school 2:30, and then they got to get back home. And it's just it's a real. We use it when we can. We use it more like on breaks and things like that when we know we can jump on it all the time. Sometimes we get kids over there, but there's no bus that goes over there. I can't put the kids on a bus and take them to practice, or anything like that. So look, we make the best of it. What we do is we do a lot of long runs, and then we come back. We do a lot of 150s. We do a lot of 200s. We do a lot of things like that. We kind of do a 200 and walk across the infield to get back to the start. Sometimes let that be a recovery. There's normal things that we do. Pacing is the biggest thing. It's hard to get kids to learn pacing. I got on the kid who I mentioned earlier, DeLille, the hurdler, about last year. And I'm like, dude, you're doing it wrong. Like, this is the workout. You've got to, we're hitting 75s today. Like, you're hitting 75s and you're not. And I was hard on him. And then like the next day I'm running and in the morning, and I'm like, oh, wait, he doesn't know how to do that. We don't have the facility to kind of teach him how to do that. So the funny thing is that Wall High School has a track that is in like complete disrepair. And that is our neighbor too. And then St. Rose is our other neighbor. They're right in Belmar. They don't have a track either. So there are actually three schools in the short conference that don't have a track. 4. Henry Hudson's one of them. St. Rose has this thing now. They have athletic fields that actually goes all the way around that they can use. Keensburg doesn't have a track, and Manasquan. So those are the 4.
So I'm curious, with Sebastian Coe making the announcement earlier this year that it's no longer indoor track, it is now short track, and potentially bringing these types of things outdoors and things like that, and maybe seeing it more normalized as a thing that's done, in nicer weather, like pop-ups. Is there any space in Manasquan to possibly even get like a 200-meter outdoor track that you could like put somewhere and at least have a 4-lane, 5-lane, 6-lane, 200-meter track?
It goes all the way. That's a full oval.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A 200-meter oval track or something, because, like you said, you could still do a lot in it with a 200-meter track, and you could say, "Hey, this is becoming a thing. You don't even have to bubble it. Give us an outdoor 200-meter track. We could do all the work we need to do. Like." We can use the infield, like give us some lines in the infield so we can do our sprints and that. Like, and also, what do you do for field? Do you have a pole vault pit? Do you have a jumping pit? Like, what is that situation as well? So kind of talk about both of those.
So yes, and yes. So we had our field area was kind of further away. There's another field that's down below from the main football field, and there's a tucked in the back. There's a pole vault. Jump. I mean, what are our standards like? They're not great. High jump stuff, we moved up, so they're near us on the track. So we kind of, most of those kids are doing multiple events, so they're doing a track practice and then they're doing their jumps after practice. So we have a long jump pit. We've got a throw circle. We had to, ask the grounds crew to weed whack it. Our vice principal was out there with the weed whacker a couple times just to make sure that everything was going well, and making sure that there was lines in the throw pits and things like that. I mean, look, we make the best of it. We really, really do. I mean, we're able to get some kids with speed. And I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or anything like that, because look, it's our situation. I can see that. Is there a place where they can probably put something like that? Yeah. I mean, I think there's a place where they could probably put a track if they reconfigured things and maybe move the baseball field back to another one. I mean, it's easier to find a baseball field than it is to find a track. Like, there's space for all those things. And there's other baseball fields even in town that if they made a little bit nicer. But again, it doesn't stop us from doing anything. It's just inconvenient.
Yeah.
And I kind of use it to put a chip on their shoulder. Maybe
you have to.
I'm a big chip on the shoulder guy.
Hey, and you have to say, hey, guys, listen, we're running as all these fancy schools who have 400-meter tracks. Like, look at what we do every day, and we're still kicking all their asses.
Yeah, it's fun.
You're allowed to complain. You're a track coach without a track. You have all leeway. You have a J. You're allowed to complain. Okay, I'm not.
We call it the Jack. So the J track. So we go call it the Jack. Now Jack Nicholson went to Manasquan High School, so it's not named after Jack Nicholson. It's the Jack, and we say let's go get jacked up. Like let's get jacked up. I stopped short. Well, forget it. I won't even say that because that'll probably get me fired. But
as a coach to your athletes, keep the chip on their shoulder. And to any Manasquan athletes listening to this, fuck yeah, keep that chip on your shoulder. Because if you meet a kid that has a full oval, you can even just throw up the circle, just so like make a joke or just throw up a J. Like that'll be sick. Like do something like that. But as for you as a coach, you have all rights to be kind of annoyed because you're working, you are working at a disadvantage. Now, what does help is if you develop that culture and you get each kid with the heart of a lion. None of that matters, right?
None of it matters.
Work their asses off. So that's the beauty of it.
And quite frankly, I tell the kids, I say it might be down the line a little bit. I said, but if we get a program going here that people, they can't deny us after a while, and I told them, I said, listen, I told the parents, I told the kids, I said, I will never, ever stop advocating for you. I don't mind. I'm not a squeaky wheel. I think that it's proper that there's a reason why we're only one of 4 that doesn't have a track because everyone else has one. I'll never stop advocating for them.
Oh yeah,
in the right way, and I take it the right way. And we there's been articles written in the local newspaper about it. Our poor facilities that we have for our track and field team, and I didn't write it. Right? It's kind of a known thing, and we'll see. We'll see.
You'll have a podcast that complains about it now.
Yeah,
it's for you guys.
Okay. I mean, look, I told you about some of the other stuff that I do. I had an opportunity to go to Africa this year to go run. And I'm going to sit here and complain that I don't have a track, right? Like, no. I'm really grateful for everything. And is it hard? Yeah, it's really hard. But, it's inconvenient more than anything. And again, I just have to, makes me a better coach, I think. I have to figure out a way to get all this stuff done. And we do. So, that's pretty cool.
And it seems like your athletes have the proper mind frame. Like, hey, like this is what we have. We're just going to go for it. And I love what you said. Like, hey, let's give them a reason to even think about making us a track. Let's be that good of a team that they can't deny and say, listen, we have all these great kids. Let's, they have earned it.
Just be careful because it almost works in the other way sometimes.
Right.
Because Maris, they've been shattering records for sprinters and they turn around and look and say, well, you're doing so well with that one. What's stopping you? So it's like, you have to walk that fine line of, well, you're doing great anyway with that one. So, what's the difference? Like we got to walk that fine line of, yeah, we need one because we're doing well. But you know what, guys, don't break every record just yet.
That's the thing. You guys seem to be doing pretty well with that one.
Yeah.
The other thing though is that is I think it helps us in one way is when like kids start getting recruited and they start hearing from colleges. We had a girl, one of my girls this week, heard from a school and she's talking to the coach and
colleges love that. Yeah,
the coach says, "Wait, you're running 2:11 as a sophomore in the 800 and you don't have a track." Like, and then he's like, "Oh, wait till we get a hold of it."
Yep.
Wait till we get a hold of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, which is pretty cool. Look, it's good. Like I said, I use it in all the right ways and use it as our advantage, disadvantage as an advantage. And, it's cool.
So I want to switch gears. I want to talk about JSF Runners, Joe Strummer Fund Runners. What is it? You started it and talk to us about it.
All right. This is cool. This is a passion project. So a lot of the running that I do now, like personally is I'm still running marathons. I'm still training for marathons and things like that, but and local races and half marathons and things like that. But I a couple times, like especially during COVID, actually some of the races that our friends Adam Nalvin was putting on were just like pop up marathons and things like that. And like we were just running on a Saturday, like
he would have like I remember telling me like he would just have these marathons. He would measure out 26 miles and say, "Hey guys, show up now," and then we're just going to run a marathon so we can get time trials for other races. And then
that's kind of a sickness. I'm just throwing that out there.
He would have to get it sanctioned, but like he worked hard because he would have to get it sanctioned. He would have to get all these things so that if you ran fast enough that it would count as a qualifier. I mean, he worked hard on that stuff. Yeah.
It didn't quite work out that way. It was mostly just a bunch of like crazy maniacs running around town. Right. But and like I was like, this is awesome. I was like, there's Adam and his wife, and then there's their neighbor, and then like there's like my friend Christine, who I do my podcast with, is she lives down the street from Adam, and like the next thing it's like I live in the right town. I'm like, there's like 8 of us in my neighborhood who are out running marathons, like random like courses that Adam put together. So when I was doing those, I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to run a marathon this weekend. And if you want to donate money, I'll give it to like this charity. Like one time there was a little girl that I trained her mom at the gym, and the little girl had, tumors on her kidney, and they had to take it out, and she was going through all sorts of chemotherapy, and the family was raising money, and there was this GoFundMe and all this stuff. And I said, listen, I'm gonna run one of Adam's marathons, and if you donate, like I'm gonna be out here doing this crazy thing. I did Facebook Live. People love it when I do wild shit, so they were like way into it, and they were started donating money. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, well, listen, you guys, I'm out here doing this marathon. I'm just getting a sip of water, but I'm on Facebook Live. If I'll do a 50K right now, if you guys want me to. And like the next thing you know, I'm adding like another 6 miles onto the, onto the marathon, or 5 miles onto the marathon. And, I'll keep going. You keep donating. I'll keep going. And, and a couple I put together. So then the next weekend I was like, well, David Goggins is doing his, 4x4x48 thing. And I was like, I'll do that too, if you want to keep donating, like, just doing wild stuff.
Yeah. And
so I put together like this thing, and then we raised like $8,000 for this girl.
Nice.
And I got a cancer charity from Ocean County, David's Dream and Believe, got involved with it. And they were like, I was able to like, get the money to them in a proper manner, not just like handing it to them, like, and so I started doing all these runs, and I was like, I could do this. And like, you don't have to go run the New York City Marathon and raise a bunch of money and, and do these things in order to raise money for a good cause. So I was like kind of running for a cause, and I was doing a lot of it, this and that. And I was on it was during COVID, and I was on the internet one day, and the Joe Strummer Foundation, it was at the time, Joe Strummer Fund now. Joe Strummer's like my favorite old-timey punk rock music. He's lead singer of the Clash. And I'm a big, I grew up on punk rock and hip hop. Like, that's
I'm a diehard punk rock fan. So
all right, good. So Joe Strummer Fund, I look at it and I'm like, are they associated with any charities, or any races? Like, are they running at the London Marathon? Because Strummer was a runner. Strummer ran 3 marathons. He ran 2, Paris twice and London once, and famously said that he trains by drinking 10 pints the night before. And, there's like a story behind it. And I'm like, listen, Strummer's a runner, and here's the foundation. And, you could probably raise a lot of money if we put together some things. So I sent a blind email off to Joe Strummer, info at, and,
cool.
And yeah. And I was like, listen, I can offer my coaching services. I can offer, any relationships I have within the sport. I know people at New York Road Runners. So maybe we can like get some charity bibs and make some money for the fund, like whatever you need. If you think interested. And I got an email back, and it was like, hey mate, I'm Jamie, and I run the whole foundation, and I'm keen on running too. And it's my friend Jamie Webb, who's over in Hastings, England, and he runs the whole foundation. And the foundation itself is it's empowerment through music. It's empowerment through the arts. And they work with people and schools, and like they work with homeless in London. They work with a school. I call it a school that's in Sierra Leone, Freetown, Sierra Leone, in Africa. And they raise money, and they give opportunity to people that wouldn't have it, whether it's through just classwork and teaching kids how to do graphic design, which is what Way Out Arts does in Freetown, Sierra Leone. They have small music studio, very primitive stuff where like talented street kids with no money, nothing pretty much. They barely have food, can go in and like lay down beats and like make music and like, that's and awesome. The fun kind of, it's really, really, really cool stuff. So Jamie, long story short, gets back to me, and we're kind of kicking it around. How do we make this work? And it was COVID. So like, not only were we not getting in this charity partnership, but none of these races were even happening. So we said, let's just like make a internet presence. We had a Facebook page and an Instagram, page, and just kind of, see what happens with it. We'll put it out in the newsletter, and we'll ask people to, join the newsletter. We make it specific, and we'll kind of, just see what happens. And within a month, we had 2,000 followers with on 6 different continents as part of our Joe Strummer Foundation running club, JSF Runners. 6 continents. If anyone knows of a runner in Antarctica, send them my way, especially if they like punk rock music. Because that's the only one we're short on right now. And it was wild. And we just started doing some virtual runs and quote unquote group runs. And no, you didn't have to donate any money if you didn't want to. But if you did, we can, put it into the fund. And next thing you know, we're kind of making money. And, it's things are kind of happening. And we're doing these awesome, just any kind of run, 5Ks, 10Ks, once a month, once every quarter, whatever. And, you get the involvement. We have a Strava group and, all this cool, stuff. And it's all a bunch of gnarly old punk rockers that are either trying to maybe they just held on forever. Right. And they're always runners, or maybe they're just trying to, get their health back in order, which is really common for dudes that age, and men and women. And so just try and do some good. And of course, it brought me to Africa. I got to go to Freetown, and
really cool.
So I started sending training schedules over to the group of kids that are in the school there. And, I was training them virtually. I was meeting with them on Zoom, and, just big, huge smiling faces that just needed something or anything. It's a wild place. And so we went over there in November and staged a marathon. I ran a marathon in Africa.
That's a life experience, man, right there.
It was wild, especially because it wasn't we were out on some dirt trails in the bush or anything like that. We were kind of in a metropolitan type of area. It's along the Atlantic, so it was kind of nice, but it was super freaking hot, as you'd imagine. And just I was able to do it. I have great memories of pictures and things like that of so I think 5 of us ran the whole thing, or ran the whole marathon. A bunch of them did the half marathon at least. Some of them ran 10K, 5K, whatever it's whatever you want to do. 3 of those kids now are part of the Olympic development team in Sierra Leone.
Nice.
Which is cool. I'm still sending sneakers down and trying to do whatever we can to support them, because they're, it's the 4th or 5th poorest country on the planet.
Yeah.
There's nothing. The only thing that they're not short on is love and gratitude, and just amazing. They have great spirit and energy, and they love to dance and music, and they love running, and running makes them feel good. And thank you so much. And it's just crazy. It's just been a great experience doing that. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That's got to be something that kind of uplifts your soul, right? Just good, solid, positive human interaction in a time where you have to go seek that, right? The internet is a cesspool of terrible, but it's you have an experience of a lifetime where you're bringing your passion, something you love doing, to other people and making them passionate about it. You do that at home in Manasquan, in your hometown, with kids there, and you're doing it across in another continent. That's so freaking cool, dude. That is so awesome.
That also, has to put everything in perspective. So we have a 250-meter track. Big deal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And all in the name of punk rock music, right? It was everything.
Absolutely.
It was so cool.
Speaking to my heart, right there.
Joe Strummer famously said, "Without people, you're nothing." And that's the truth. And
I'm the next generation of punk rock here. No offense, Pennywise. I'm not the old man.
I'm actually going to see.
I'm there too, though. I'm there too, Alex. Don't worry.
I'm going on Saturday. I'm going on Saturday to see the Bounce of Souls and 7.
I'm going to be there, Dave. Let's go.
Oh, nice, man.
I'm bringing my wife. I'm bringing my son. We're gonna.
I'm going with some high school buddies. And one of them is bringing his 5-year-old son for the first time.
That's great.
Wait, you see how hard I hug you, Dave?
Hey, man. I will be there.
So, Coach, how can people get involved? If, obviously, I want to give a shout out to Joe Strummer for allowing his name to be put on here, because obviously that helps with the outreach of the foundation. But if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I want to give to that sounds awesome, or they want to get involved, they want to run, they want to do things, where can they go? They get involved.
simplest thing is just jump on the Facebook page. It's JSF Runners, and Instagram JSF Runners, JSF Joe Strummer Fund Runners. And
I'll be putting that in the info. I'll be putting a link to the Facebook at least in the info there, so anyone can get to it. If you're interested, just go right in the info of this show, and you can
all there. It's low key, it's laid back. It's like, it's pretty cool. I love seeing pro runners like pop up and say like, it's freaking great, man. It's all love, and we have a good time, and it's and it's running too, and you'd be surprised. I said, look, there's a lot of people that run. There's a lot of people that like this music, so
we need to get you with Dave Alfano, and we need to get you with Charles and Miles, and we need to get you guys to do like a punk rock meet where there's a meet going on with all punk rock playing while people are racing.
I will DJ. I will commentate. I will do it.
I told them it's fact. So we have the. I love that, and I would love to do anything with.
Maybe get some like local bands that like punk and do covers and stuff. Have them play in the infield while like a 10K is going on. That would be incredible.
I got all that going. I got bands. I got it all. We could do that, like no doubt about it. So we have the Twilight meets at Homedale where the kids run, the 3,200 the mile or the 1,600, and Craig Siegel from Runners High is the DJ that night, and he'll play Bouncing Souls and he'll play stuff like that. And I'm like, I tell the kids, I'm like,
Craig's a good dude.
Science. Oh, Craig's the best. He's my guy. So I actually grabbed a whole bunch of sneakers from him before I went down to Africa. Nice. So, tremendous discount he offered us there. He's fan. He's a friend of mine. I run with him from time to time. He's a great guy. And so, I said, kids, I had the whole team on the infield. I'm like, it's science. If you listen to punk rock and hip hop, you will be a better runner. Right? Like there's no doubt about it. Like Public Enemy, there's no doubt that makes you a better runner, right? They don't know what the hell to do with me half the time, but
I mean, you got to give them some Irish punk because it's always upbeat too. You give them some Dropkick Murphys and they're moving Flogging Molly. Absolutely.
Love it. I love it.
So I want to... go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
So Brian, you've entered this crazy world that Alex and I are in now with podcasting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How did that come about? And what exactly is it based on? It seems like it's more than just running. It's kind of on fitness in general. So I was looking at your catalog. You're well over 300 episodes, which is fantastic. So how did that come about, and what it is that you guys actually talk about?
And I have to jump in real quick. I just realized not too long ago that your name is a play off the Beck song, Where It's At. 2 fit crazies and a microphone. Got 2 turntables and a microphone for anyone that's not. But yeah, I love that. So 2 fit crazies and a microphone. I sing it in my head now.
So we're good. We're good, but we're not great apparently because Beck hasn't sent the cease and desist yet for using his. We actually used the freaking straight up use the music in the intro. We just took it. So Christine Conti and I are both fitness industry people, and actually this started out again. You said, Dave, we're 306 episodes in on this. We've been at it for 6 years. We're both endurance athletes, so we said we're committed to doing one a week, and we're going to do it. Come hell or high water, COVID, no COVID, doesn't matter. We're doing it, and so we started it's fitness and wellness. We're both in the fitness and wellness industry. It does overlap into endurance events and running and all the running that we do. And our guests are sometimes, like that. We've had Bart Yasso on the show. We've had Roberta Groner on the show. It's one of my favorite episodes. Yeah. But really what we're into is like the story. What's the person's story? So we have people, all of our friends in the fitness industry, all the presenters and all the people that are, are out there. Maybe they made a program of exercise routines of things like that. So we bring them on and we talk about that stuff, but would like to talk to them about who are they? What are you into? How'd you get here? What's the story? And we really go pretty deep on that. We've had you're a Rutgers guy. We've had Eric LeGrand on the show. We've we've had a lot of people, over 300 and something episodes. We've had, and then the best episodes I think sometimes are just the ones that it's Christine and I. Now she just won. I told you I was out in LA. Went to the fitness convention out there. Idea World is it's the biggest fitness convention of the year for our industry, and she was the fitness trainer of the year. She was named at the big,
Congrats to her. That's awesome.
She's a freaking beast, but she's got rheumatoid arthritis, and you wouldn't know it because she's run like 50 marathons. She's run 100-milers. She's done Ironman through and through. She just ran. I don't know if you're familiar with the kid with Down syndrome, Chris Nidich, who did the Ironman a couple last year. It was like a big story. I think he won an ESPY.
I saw his story on ESPN. Yes.
Yeah. So Christine just paced him through a half Ironman with a couple other kids with Down syndrome doing triathlons and stuff like that. So look, it's really wild. Cool. Christine, like when we run Boston or this or that, or our marathons, we always do a recap. When she does an Ironman, we do a recap. So those episodes are always fun. We've run Boston like at the same time, like I think 3 or 4 times. So I've had some wacky experiences in Boston. One year I carried a dude over the finish line. The photographer caught it. That was pretty wild. You can Google.
That's pretty cool.
Google. That's freaking wild.
That's pretty cool.
And listen, but I love what you say, because like here on our podcast, we love to tell people's stories.
Anybody it's a very similar thing.
Anybody can watch any race and go over splits and times, but we want to know what did it take to prepare for that race, or what did it take? What was it like going through the recruiting process, or just hear people's stories, because some people have such fascinating stories, and I feel like at times in this sport we get lost on, well, how fast do you run? How high do you jump?
Right.
How far do you throw? It's good to hear people's stories, and to give people who might not be still running actively pro their chance to say, hey, listen, we work just as hard as anyone now, and like this is what we did. So we are big on hearing everyone's stories. It's just such an integral part of the sport that I feel at times can get left behind.
I'm telling you, you guys do a great job, man. I really enjoy like going through the catalog and hearing that stuff, and hearing Robbie Andrews talk about his dad and stuff like that. I work with Big Bob, and I put a Gone Running actually in Manasquan to kind of help my program out. And
very good.
Look, I'm no dummy. We need a feeder program to get some kids going, come through the system. But and just to hear that, and I can imagine in my head that conversation between Robbie and his dad, and and you hear Julie Cully, and it's like, that.
Julie Cully's story about her national championship is, and I've been podcasting for about 7 years. I started off just doing a sports one a while back. I've done a whole bunch of different ones, and I've talked to some awesome people. I've talked, your co-host might like. I talked to Mark Allen, 6-time Ironman champion. He's like the man of the Ironman,
right? Of course.
But it's Julie Cully's story is one that I said flat out to her, me and Dave constantly bring her up. She could be a 30 for 30. Her story could be a 30 for 30.
It's awesome.
Just from going through all of her training and the difficulties and wanting to give up.
Different coaches and then going pro and going into coaching and then going back to running.
Coming back and all the crying, right? The crying.
The crying was the theme. If it wasn't her as like the title, it would have been like, and I just cried. That would have been the title.
Let me tell you what I did. And this is a testament to you guys. I was listening to that episode, and when it got to the trials part where the race was about to happen, and she reminded me of the backstory of everybody in that event that day. I paused your show. I went on YouTube and I watched the race again.
That's awesome.
Because it had been a while, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like I remember it, and like I was like, oh yeah, I was like, let me watch the race. So I just and then I went back to it, and it was like, it was really cool that I was like, I gotta watch that fucking race again. That thing was amazing. Having everything coming down the wire like that.
Talk about how she found this gear that she's like that you can only go to maybe 5 times in your whole life. And then she found it and won the race. It was just great. I mean,
yeah,
we just love doing it, and but going back, like it's people's stories that are what make what we do so worth it. Just 100%. Hearing people's, just their trials and their tribulations and their failures and their success. I love doing this every single Monday because you get to talk to such wonderful people, and this is such an amazing sport, and there's so many aspects, so many different components to it that I just love it.
And the uniqueness of it. Like, your story is unique to the sport, but it's awesome because someone that was like, what you normally hear with someone like you who's like, I did Junior Olympics and I was there. And it's like, and I followed that track, went through middle school, high school, I went to college, and you took a different track, but it's still a runner's track. And I want people to realize that it doesn't matter how you get to running. If you're still running, if you're not never did high school, never did this, if you strap shoes on and you go and you pound the pavement, I've always say, I don't care if you run a 40-minute 5K or a 15-minute 5K. Like, it doesn't matter. Come talk to us about it.
You got my respect.
Because it's fantastic. And this show, all credit to Dave. I say all the time, this was Dave's idea. I just had the means because I've been doing it. But this is Dave's idea. Dave has all the good ideas. He's the idea maker. I'm just a loudmouth. But speaking of ideas, before we jump out of here, I want to hear how you would fix this sport of track and field, because you are obviously a fan. You go to Milrose, you do all those types of things. If you had the magic ball and you had the power and they said, Coach, whatever you want to do it, fix this sport, what would you do?
I'd say I got a better chance of having a track like by next season than
having a 400-meter track at
Manasquan. Yeah, right. No, honestly, there's so much that and it's a great sport. It's the purest sport that I think it is. Maybe besides boxing, two dudes punching each other in the ring,
like wrestling.
It's like
wrestling,
it's like wrestling.
The original Olympic
wrestling.
sports.
Yeah, and I love it. And you, me, and a stretch of earth, who's going to win? Like, there's just nothing more pure than that.
Yep.
And it is flawed. Obviously we talk all the time about the television coverage and where do we even find our national championships was a problem. I want my kids on my team and say, hey, look, at 4:00 on Channel 4, the USA Championships are going to be on, and it's not that easy. It's like, that you might be able to watch the
Diamond League every week, but you got to pay for Peacock. I mean, I'd buy it, but not everybody's going to spend money.
I didn't even know I had Peacock. It turns out my son, who likes the WWE, had ordered Peacocks on my dime. But yeah, I think that the tremendous thing, the one thing that I really see is that it's not a team, a team sport. We get into it every 4 years in the Olympics because we are rooting for the uniform, right? We're rooting
Team USA, though. There's a
Team USA.
There's a team component.
It's that team component. I mean, I think Jerry Seinfeld said, right? We root for laundry, right? We root for, we root for clothes.
Yeah.
And there's no clothes, because what happens is the life of these athletes is somewhat short, So maybe you find somebody that you root for, and that's your person, and maybe it's Sha'Carri right now, or maybe for us it was always AJ Wilson, because we saw her come up as a kid, and she would train on the track with us, and kick our ass when she was 15, and it was hard to swallow, but maybe it's that kid, but Ajay's had a long career, relatively speaking, so. What do you do when that career, that person you root for, isn't there anymore? You got to go find another one. But I think if you had a uniform, those kind of things kind of transition. So I would propose, if the power to give me that magic 8 ball, I'd say some sort of regional teams, maybe get some coaching, maybe have some 4 or 5 teams, around the country, and maybe have a season before Diamond League stuff. Where you can kind of, get some meets going and kind of have a rooting interest for things as teams and score it like a team.
The only way that'll ever happen, though, is if money. These athletes need to get paid, and that's the issue. They
would. So I think that's something that you said, Dave, is that you kind of need that investor. You kind of need that.
We need some angel investors in track and field.
You do, and you kind of have to get. I mean, USA Track and Field's okay, but what do they do? They're, like you guys have said time and time again. I told you I listen to the show. Is that the UFC is not the governing body really? It's the promoter. So we need a promotion that can do something like that and make sure that the people are getting paid. And if it is maybe for 4 or 5 meets, maybe it would be worthwhile for them to make 30, 40. 50 grand, to come in and do a few meets and make sure that they're there, right? If you don't show up, you don't get the money, and maybe do a northeast and a southeast and a northwest and a southwest, and maybe give Texas their own freaking team or something like that.
But that's why the NCAA meet did well on ESPN.
Yes,
again, because one, I thought coverage was good. I loved having not so-called regular track announcers, having RG3, who ran track, who was very
Love
good.
him.
I thought he was fantastic. He's doing great.
Emmanuel Acho's got to do something. He's been great on Twitter.
Michael Johnson. But I also love now how the athletes are starting to speak out. Like Kari Richardson has a lot of opinions on the USATF, and she doesn't care who.
She's been great lately.
And
she's awesome.
Got there on Twitter, and she's saying things, like, this is what is wrong. Like, why do other sports, they get paid? Like, why if you win Diamond League, do you only get $10,000? Like,
right. No,
there's only like it's crazy.
And like maybe the cost of production is like too much. I mean, like they put cornhole on ESPN. Like I don't even like can't get track and field on ESPN. I got a couple other things like that drive me nuts. Obviously the coverage stinks. They can't go to split screens. Like show me the race. Don't go to commercial. Like the announcers.
NASCAR has split screen all the time. You will always see a race.
I feel like it was a little better though on at Nationals this year because they were actually.
I thought it was.
Here's Ryan Krauser, but we're also going to show you the 5K.
They definitely listened to the show because they had the miles per hour going on the side of the screen every once in a while. Heart rate, which was cool.
Loved it.
Did some cool things. So I have a question.
They put the heart rate on the fans, right? They put the heart rate on someone's mom.
On the hurdler's mom from
Pitt State or whatever. Yeah, whatever.
The kid from D2 who.
So I have a quick question for both of you because we often bring up teams on here, and I think that might be something that it's been tried, right? Tracktown USA tried to do it, and I just think the presentation wasn't there. Maybe some of the quality of the athletes wasn't there. Like they were good runners, but no names, right? What would you say if we had just a little better promotion of the current teams that there are, the training groups that are there, and they were forced to have, if you are a part of like Brooks Beast became a thing for a little while when Nick Simmons was bringing up Brooks Beast, everyone knew this was Brooks Beast running. But now you see Nike has its one speed suit of the year. So if you run for any of the Nike sponsored training teams, you wear that speed suit. And it's like we would see people with the same speed suit, and it's like, are they on the same team? No. This one trains for Oregon. Right. This one trains for this. So would it be something if we had a better promotion of just the running clubs right now, or the running teams, because they're much better now, but maybe force them to have like their team on their logo and talk about, being the teammates and things like that. And do you think that would help initially if we would be able to root for, this person's from Brooks Beast. Well, I like this person. So I'll root for that Brooks Beast person. I don't know who they are, but I like them. Like I tend to like Nick or so-and-so. Do you think that would be a step in the right direction? If it's like, if you have a training team and you're entering this race, you must present your team on your jersey type of thing.
I think where we are now, it'd be a lot easier to do something like that than it would be to get a regional team.
As a step.
That was just like my
regional,
thought.
No, listen.
I love it. Yeah.
I think regional team would be great, but so many athletes have so many different sponsors that it would be hard to get them all on one team. Where if you did like Nike versus On versus Hoka versus Adidas, like that might be an easier thing to do. But then again, like it's some of the sponsors, like they don't want to play nice with each other, and it's
like those sponsors. Like even if you run, like you said, there's different coaches involved with that. The coaches have the different timetables for when they want their athletes to be ready.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a unique sport like that, where like not every athlete has the same agenda. People who know that like I might not be world champs, maybe I can make more money if I'm fit early, in season and I'm running fast.
You know what else I'd do? You ready? I would take like each event and one of those at every meet. I would find the football players that want to sprint and run fast, and I'd give them their own heat 100.
We need gimmicks. And
just piggyback on whatever, because ESPN will show that.
Or just start putting Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf in real races. Let them get their asses handed to them, and then we can actually stop this nonsense.
That's why I said we got to give them their own heat. They got to give them their own heat, because if they're getting their ass kicked all the time, those dudes won't show up anymore.
Or just like Chris Godwin race them once and he'll destroy them because he's as good of a sprinter as anybody.
But when we had on Dave Alfano from Trials of Miles, he mentioned things like have a 10K race, but the person who's in last place at the end of each lap,
love it.
Your race is over. Like make it something so that the actual fan can. I say, hey,
I love it. We used to do that in the track, knock out 400s, right? We're running 400s today, and you're the last one, you're out. And it was a workout, but it was the strategy. They do that in like speed skating, I think, right? Isn't there's one of those things where they like, or
A
maybe
knockout,
it's
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ideas, and again, I do like your regional idea, and I like the idea of teams because I think we mentioned here a bunch of times, like dual meets. As much as people hate dual meets, I always used to enjoy them because they were the team aspect and they were extra training, right? I didn't take them dead seriously, but there was that team aspect there of you would go, and if you were up for, we had B South in Manchester. If we knew that the last meet of the year was against Central, who we fucking hated, and B South was up for it, and we're against them, and now it comes down, we had a meet where it came down to high jump for B South, and that was incredible. And I think we lost. By like a few inches, but it was just that moment where the dual meet mattered. Now take that and translate that to pros, where you have pros sitting there and you have all these great runners from their separate events now gathering around the high jump, ESPN coverage, and you're watching it, the whole stadium. Like, it could be something there, or it comes down to a 4x4. Like, that would be
the mind frame of the athletes would have to change, because unfortunately, track and cross country is so team oriented all the way through college, and then it's just boom.
Yeah, individuals. You know what? First of all, they don't really do dual meets anymore in high school. We have a division meet where everybody runs. I hate which that. Is
at worst it's a try meet. I kind of like it because like you don't waste, like if you like there's only so many races that you can.
I kind of like it as a coach because I'm always kind of looking for
I'm
like
gonna fight with everybody. A dual meet's not a race. It's a race for the kids that aren't not
necessarily.
Offensive. It's a race for the kid. You get a few races a year out of dual meets where you have a kid that you're gonna see in counties or conferences, and you're like, okay, but I also have 2 more races to run, so I'm gonna give it my all for 50-60% of it. And if this little jerk wants to turn it into a race,
listen,
I'm gonna take second and go win the next one. Like,
a lot of it too had to do with that, like people who didn't know much about sport, like your AD or something, it mattered to them winning those races. So like coaches would be forced to run kids 3-4 events, and then by the time the end of the season, I don't have any issue with how it is now. I think it's maybe have 1 or 2 more try meets. You don't always have to have 1 meet for national meet, but I like it because it's more. You get better races at the end of the season if kids are coached properly, and they don't have to go all out all the time. And just because it's a dual meet, there are times where you have to go all out in a
once or twice. I was running like a 2:10, a 4:50, and a 10:20 at fastest.
But that's not always. Yeah, but you had to run.
It's a workout, right?
It's a workout, so it's a hard workout. It takes that Tuesday hard workout, and which workout was usually harder than the meet for me. And for a lot of your better athletes, it is a easier day to have a dual meet.
If I was to have a workout, I would like it better now.
For me as a coach right now, I kind of like it the way we have it with the division meets, because I'm not looking like, and most of the time I'm looking for like 1 less meet for most of these kids than 1 more meet, and there's not a shortage of meets as far as the kids that maybe weren't, my varsity runners and things like that. There's plenty of meets out there for all these kids to get involved with. So, for me, it's kind of like, all right, we do it in 2 days and we can kind of get in and get out. And it's usually one of our first meets of the year after some relays. So it's pretty cool that we can do that. Coach, ready for this? I got a couple more. Yeah, I need you to get rid of the meters when it comes to high jump and all the throws and all those things.
I see that point for the average fan, for the casual fan, but I also don't know why we haven't converted 2 meters.
Yeah. That's the thing. Don't get rid of them. Process. Just put both. How hard is it to put the feet in parentheses or the feet with inches in parentheses? How hard is that? Put the meters there, but at the international standard.
They've been doing that more on.
They have been.
For some pro meets.
You know what else drives me nuts?
How is he going to do it?
It drives me nuts when they stop the clock when the first person goes over the finish line, because I want to see what that 5th person's running. You know what I mean? Like that 4th, 5th. I'm like, oh, she's going to break. She's going to break. I don't know.
Also, I gotta look at the results. Also, not looking at the back of the pack or the middle of the pack during a long race. Like, I get it. The front is a big deal, but why not let's talk about the races here. And this person is on yes, they're not in the front, but they're from Ireland. They're on the pace to break the Irish, record, which what happened. There was a bunch of national records set at the Diamond League this week. I guarantee not a single one of them were on camera after their intro. Like, so yeah, I agree with you there. You got anything else? We're a little bit crushed.
But I do
I'm fine
like
with it. I'm fine with
the
it.
We're
lights.
well
I
over,
like
but I
the
love
lights.
this. I'm a talker.
I like the
The
lights.
lights.
You do
For the
like the
casual
lights. You're
I
pumped
do.
about the lights.
I think it helps the casual fans. Oh, they have to stay with the lights.
It's good for the fans. I asked my kids because we run like New Balance Nationals indoor, and the lights were there, and like they say they can't even see them when they're running, so it's not for them at all.
That's
It's
not
really
bad,
for us.
No,
So
it's
it
like the
doesn't.
first down line in football. They don't see it.
Yeah, I was worried about it. I'm like shit, this kid's gonna go and try and she's gonna go try and run 4:55 when she's probably a 4:50, whatever, or a 5 flat, and she's gonna get out of a race just because she's gonna follow the lights. But she said she couldn't see him, so
Good.
I think that's pretty good. I kind of like him.
I might be the only one that's kind of like, eh.
I don't like them for world championships or thing like where place matters. But when guys are trying to get records, go for it.
Now they have like 2 different lights. They got the lights for the rabbits, and then they got the lights.
Yeah,
for
they got
rabbit
rabbit runs, and then they have we're sitting here. So, coach,
yeah,
as a coach in the NJSIAA, what has gone on with the meet of champs the last 2 years and all these national meets? Like, is there anything that you would like to see differently? Do you want to bring do you want to keep the meet midweek, or why do they have that extra week where they take off in between sectionals and groups, or before sectionals? Like, they should push everything back a week so that there's no issues with scheduling. That is the way I feel about it. As a coach, do you find that it's harder if you have, because you have a girl who's a sophomore who's going to be, she's on that national level, and it's going to have to be a choice that she might have to make if things stay how they are and they don't go back to the schedule where they had it, where they don't take off the week for Memorial Day.
Yeah, again, this is one of those situations where I haven't been around all that long to really know. I mean, I've been watching as a fan and understand. I've been to every meet of champions for the last 20 years, I believe. But from a coach's perspective, it's kind of new situation for me. But this year was a freaking mess. I mean, we had the groups, combined into one, which was a disaster. We had no heats in the finals. I mean, I had one kid who, 3 jumps in the and let it ride. So my kid is notorious for jumping big in finals, and he didn't get his opportunity at that. And he's the kid who won groups on his final jump, or sectionals on his final jump. So we didn't get that, and it really messed things up. We probably ran we ran one too many races. My girl there, she ran the 800 and the 1600. It was just a tough back to back. And then with meet of champions, I don't know, I don't even really know what happened there. They just kind of canceled it and pushed it back a day for some weather that never really happened. I mean, look, I understand the safety parameters and all those things that they probably had to. Yeah,
I don't mind being cautious with the weather, but it's the fact that they bumped it all back a week. Like, it was never an issue. There was no week.
Yeah, I think they had the problem with the officials getting officials there on the Memorial Day weekend, and all right, I think that they could.
How many coaches would say, "I'll just rake,"
well, we're raking anyway because it's a situation. Michaela is known for grabbing the rake. She has no problem grabbing the rake, and raking out the pitch. She's a beast. So I think that's the way. I think we probably put everything back on Memorial Day weekend and just kind of have some leeway that was there. As far as the nationals go, like, that pushed us right into nationals. So Angelina George. So Angelina George, here's the situation. You ready for this? Angelina runs the 800 at Meet of Champions on Thursday. Right? Is that what it worked out to be? Yeah.
I pushed back to Thursday.
It's a Thursday. So she runs it on Thursday. Again, the letdown of not being ready to run on Wednesday, ready to run pre-race, like juiced up, ready to go.
Athletes were more angry than anybody else.
They were pissed. And she was pissed. And they find out at 10 o'clock, they're all in school. They're checking their Snapchats and all that stuff because everybody's communicating all this stuff. So she goes and runs Thursday. She had a tough race. She got boxed in, and by the time she looked up, all these gangsters were gone. It was like, Kate DeSouza's gone, Clemmy Lily's gone. They're all gone.
They made the move.
Yeah, I said to Angelina ran 2:11 in the groups, and she ran 2:11.6. Clemmy Lily ran 2:11.2. 2 sophomores who battled all season. We see Rumson all the time.
Yep.
And they again, there's a weird situation. They're buddies. They're like, they know each other, friends on Snapchat and all this shit.
That's how all of them are now. Yep.
They're all like that. I kind of like it. It's fun. The sport's hard enough. They don't have to hate anybody.
It is what it is.
Yeah, and so she runs, and I said, Angelina, I said, you got a shot at winning this thing. I think if you run 2:10, we're going to run 2:10, and if you run 2:10, you can win. And she ended up running 2:14 and had a bad day as a sophomore running 2:14. Right, we'll take it. Yeah, bad day.
That
bad
2:14.
Day. Look, she's hard on herself too. She was not happy about that. But the next day, Friday at Franklin Field, she's running the steeple. She's running the 2K steeple. And that was supposed to go off at 8:30 in the evening, and it was going to be like the premier highlight of the meet and all this stuff. Well, they got thunder and lightning that day at Franklin Field, and they ended up pushing everything back. Our 4x8, which she wasn't a part of, was going to run that day too. So they ended up running, the 4x8 ended up running at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or something like that. And the steeple went off at midnight. So she went from running Meet of Champions on Thursday, and at midnight Friday night, she goes out and she runs. She ran 7:15, which we believe is the sophomore state record for the steeplechase.
Awesome.
Yeah, she said, I was a little worried I wasn't going to have legs, and I wasn't going to be able because of the race the day before. And so she said, like, I kind of held back. She says, one of the greatest things that I could ever hear a kid ever say after a great race is, I know I can do that faster, and I'm going to do that faster. So she loves the steeplechase. I don't know. Talk about how do you train for that? This is a real quick.
In New Jersey, how do you train for that? Period.
Without a track. Right? There's that too. So we, put her over hurdles and things on the straightaway, so that really worked out. But my old-timey track coach, Rich Reed, who I told you is the football guy, takes one of the aluminum bleachers, like the little bench thing that the football team sits on, and puts it at the end of our long jump runway. So she can run down the runway. She can take a jump, get a push off. It's the same height. He measured it somehow. And then take steps into the sand instead of water. I don't know. It kind of worked.
Hey, it works. It's a change in level. It's a softer. That's actually really genius. But you know what, though? Old time coaches are great with that. We had legendary Manchester coach Rob Conover on, and he gave us his strategy for how we train high jumpers, which I don't think anybody does anymore. Makes them all dunk with the tennis ball, then do it backwards, then just throw their head, like train them in perfect form by doing something that they, outside of just doing the technique. But coach, we went a little long, and I love every moment of it. I think it was great. No, it was a talker. Great conversation. I love it. He is Coach Brian Prendergast, Manasquan. Sorry, not Manchester. Manasquan High School head coach, cross country, track and field. Thank you so much for coming on.
You bet, man. I appreciate it. Thanks. You guys do a great job. It's an honor to be here.
And I will see you on Saturday in the pit.
Let's go.
Yes, and I just want to direct everybody. I will have the link in there for JSF Runners. Go support that fund and that cause. Coach is awesome over there, and also go give a listen if you like hearing more storytelling. Obviously, Two Fit Crazies and a Microphone podcast over there. I assume found anywhere they can find a podcast.
Wherever you listen to them, we're on there.
Awesome. So go give that a listen. Again, we're talking to Nobles. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals. We will be back next week with another really fun show as we have every single week. So long, everybody.